Hi everyone, in this tutorial we will look at how we can upload files using Flask. So there's a few steps to this. The first step is we need to ensure that we have a way to securely upload our files, and thus we'll need to import this library called secure file name from the WorkZoog utils. Secondly, we need to actually establish ourselves upload folder. The upload folder I'm going to create is something called profile photos. You could put this upload folder anywhere so long as you can get the path to it. Because it's in the root of my directory, it should be easy to find. So I've created myself a folder called upload profile photos, and I've defined that in my Flask script as a global variable. So I created a global variable called upload folder. Secondly, I made a list of allowed extensions. So I'm going to check to see if someone can actually upload these files. You should do this again for security reasons. I want it so the user can only upload image files. So I've given it a list of allowed extensions. Again, this is a global variable. Finally, inside the Flask config, you can set that upload folder. So just like we did with the secret key, we're going to put that inside the configuration for Flask. I'm also going to create a small little function that will just check to see if the file that is uploaded is in the allowed extensions. So this is purely for my own benefit. All it's going to do is return true or false based on if the actual file is allowed or not. Okay, moving on. I'm going to go to firstly my register page, which is where I want the user to upload a folder or a file, sorry. So in my register HTML, I'm going to firstly, inside the form itself, allow multi-part form data, which I need to do if I want to actually send a file. So I put that inside the form next to the form action. And then inside the actual form itself, I've created a label called profile photo, and I've got an input type of file, and I've given it a name as well. The name is important because when we search for that file, we're going to be looking for that name. So I could have called that name profile photo if I wanted to. I've just got it as file for now, but if you have more than one upload area, you might like to have different names. But the important thing is it's an input type of file. That makes it so that when we actually have a look at, in fact, I will just run it now so you can see. When someone tries to register, they'll actually see that form. So I'm just going to log out at the moment. I'm going to go to the register page, and you can see that on the register page, I have profile photo, choose file. So that's the input type of file. It allows you then to upload an image or a file from your file explorer, and that will get sent with the form data. So that's the first step. The second step is I'm going to go to my app, the part where I've got to register. Mind you, you could do this anywhere. I've just decided to put it inside my register page so that people could upload a profile photo, but you really could put these file uploads anywhere. But inside my register code, I'm going to, when the user's gone through and they're about to register, I go and look for the file that they have uploaded. So I just decided to log it, so I've got that there. But I've got if file in request files. So request files is where I can find any file that's been submitted. It will look for the name. Remember, I gave it the name file, but if you have more than one file upload, you'll wish to use different names. I get that value. So first I just check to see if it's there, and the second thing I do is actually get the value for it. And then I check that it is actually allowed. If the file extension is not allowed, I'm going to tell them that they've got an error. So I'm going to make sure that's where I use that function I used before to ensure that they're using an image file. And I also check that the file exists. At this point here, I put security around it using that secure file name. I get the file path. I've defined the file path outside the if statements so that it doesn't lose variable scope. So it still exists. I don't want to get a name error because the file path no longer exists. I join my upload folder to the file name, and that gives me the file path. And then I save. At this point here, I have now saved inside profile photos. I've just got a few error messages here. But at this point here, when I'm about to insert the user into the database, which is what I normally do with the registration page, I'll just put word wrap on. You'll actually see that I'm actually also saving the profile photo in, and I'm sending it the file path. So I'm saving that file path variable into the database so that when I look at the users table, I'll find that file path, which is why I set the file path to blank unless the file exists. If the file exists, I'm now going to save it inside the user table. So the user doesn't have to upload a file if they don't want. Right, there's a second part to this. I actually need to make it so that that file inside the profile photos is accessible. So when someone tries to link an image, or I try to build an image, I'm going to have the source there. And what I want to do is the web server is fairly locked down. Normally, the only files that are accessible to the client are inside static. So if you wanted to put a logo or something, you'd put it inside the static folder. But to make it so that this profile photos directory is accessible to the user, I'm going to create a view function for it. And one of the ways you can use a view function in Flask is you can actually put a variable inside the less than and greater than sign brackets. And what that means is that variable will actually be used by my function. So this is a special type of view function here. You can actually use this format for anything. So sometimes people like to create a view function where you just put a value onto the end of the URL, and that value is then used in some way. This value, file name, is then used by my function as a variable called file name. And all I do is I actually look for that file inside the upload folder, which is profile photos, and then I send it back. So in essence, I've created myself a view function that has special access to my profile photos. If I didn't do that, I would have to save inside the static folder, and that's not where you should be saving things. Finally, when I log in, I'm actually going to find that file. So just to show you what I mean, it's actually hard because I can't see the database here. I wonder if I've got a backdoor. No, I've deleted my backdoor. Okay, I'll just go on and then I'll show you how it all works. But essentially, when a user logs in, I actually want to show that user their profile photo. So just to show you what I mean, I'm actually just going to log in as someone I have logged in previously as. Right. This is my login page, my home page. On my home page, I actually show the user their profile photo. You can also see that I'm actually just outputting the session at the moment. I don't have to, but this is just for debugging. In the session, you can see that I've saved the profile photos. So I've got the path there, profile photos, and whatever the file name was, which in this case was bartsimpson.jpg. And I'm using that to put it inside the page. So when I log in, I'm actually going to get the path to their profile photo, and I'm going to put that inside the session. So this here is my login code. When I look in the database for all the information about the user, one of the things that will come out is their profile photo, if they've got one. And if they've got a profile photo, I'm just going to save that profile photo file path inside my session. So I'm actually saving that inside my session. And then I'm going to go to my home page, and you'll actually notice I wanted to show one more thing to do with includes and extensions using the templating system that Flask uses. You'll notice I've got this thing called include profile photo.html. I actually didn't have to do this. I'm just doing this to demonstrate something. I can actually look for any piece of HTML and just insert it in using the include keyword. You'll notice that this is slightly different from extends. Extends means chuck whatever code I've got inside something else. Includes just says look for another HTML file and chuck it in. So they're slightly different. Here, I'm actually going to include HTML to do with a profile photo. I create this profile photo block. So I've got block profile photo, and then I've just got div and an image. And inside the image, you'll notice that the source for the image says session profile photo. And that's where it's chucking in the source file path. And when it goes to that file path in Flask, it will actually trigger this here. So when the image tries to load up, the file path is going to trigger that. And then it will actually find the image from the directory and send it back. And therefore, inside my home, you can see that's loading up the profile photo of that user. Right, so there's a lot of parts to that. Hopefully it provides you with a bit of understanding on how you can allow uploading of files. I'm going to conclude it there. Thank you for listening.